Hello everyone, welcome to part one of my video verdict. I say part one because I'm not going to do the whole thing in a face mask because I can't engage with you properly with the face mask, but by the same token I feel like you should be aware of what this is like, and this is what it's like. So you can see the fantastic banners all around Carrow Road. Probably the highlight of the day because aside from the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that was awful. Norwich have lost 3-0 here to Southampton on the restart. You probably know that because you probably watched it. So, yeah. I'm going to leave the stadium and see if I can think of any positives. I'll be back in a minute. Well, I've made it to here, which is generally where we see quite a few fans congregating to see off the players. I mean, had there been a crowd today, they might have gone early. Anyway, dare I say it. So yeah, I've done that short walk. I've still got my mask, but I haven't got any positives. Tim Closer played 90 minutes, which was welcome, but given Norwich are already 2 centre-backs down from the 4 they should have, they're going to need him over the coming weeks. Norwich started brightly. They moved the ball really well, and Southampton were pretty slow to get going, to be honest, and left quite a lot of spaces. And you just kind of thought, okay, fair enough. You're going to need to keep this up, or at least be able to revisit it later. Or you're going to have to take a chance that comes along. And they had probably their 2 best chances, I think, came in those first few minutes. But a bit like all season, there's like a lack of clinical edge and certainty to their finishing, so they didn't take them. And then really it didn't take Southampton much to get themselves into the game. And the first half was probably even-ish. I mean, there wasn't, Southampton weren't doing much. They looked purposeful, but Norwich kind of were doing enough to keep them at bay. And you thought, okay, well, both teams have got a foothold in the game. Now Southampton started the second half quite well after Norwich had sort of been positive at the very start of that half, but really the first goal, I think we saw what the biggest issue is in terms of playing behind closed doors, especially if you're struggling, especially if your confidence is bruised and has a muscle memory of what's gone on before, because as soon as Norwich were behind, it kind of unravelled. They lost their discipline in their shape, and they had no possession. They just looked lost and adrift and detached. They couldn't really work out what they were doing, and they'd obviously gone about it to try and create they played in a 4-4-2 from the start, and they wanted to be positive. They wanted to a lot of it led from stepping away from let's just rely on possession, let's try and create chances and be attacking minded. But as soon as Southampton figured that out, then the gaps were so easy for them to exploit that they exploited them. And the way they finished, it was so clinical and assured in the second half. You look a class above, I'm afraid, and that's probably the worst possible thing that could have happened today, because let's be honest, we're all watching this. We're all maybe not watching this and sat at home trying to ignore it, because it feels like that's that. And Daniel's going to have a huge job to try and inspire them into something positive for Everton when they come here to Carrow Road on Wednesday night. Norwich win that game and, things open up again, but pretty much a disaster, to be honest. We did have a debut for Josh Martin, which was very good, albeit the last few minutes. But this was a lonely old existence for Norwich, and I don't really feel like there's much more to say, and I'm not really sure you're going to be watching it. So we'll be back here on Wednesday, or I will, and we'll see what we get after that. In the meantime, I'm sure I'll do some stuff over on the YouTube channel. We'll have a podcast, an On The Ball podcast after each game, and loads of stuff at The Athletic, which reflects on much more than the current, but also analysing and giving you a bit of insight into what is the situation at the moment, and of course, however this season plays out, what it means for the club going forward. In the meantime, it finished here 3-0. Nathan Redmond scored on his Carrow Road return. Danny Ings scored again, and Stuart Armstrong got the other, I think, off the top of my head. and Southampton were a class apart. Craig Fleming, I'm sure, enjoyed his return to Carrow Road as first team coach at Southampton. Anyway, I'm a bit rusty and I've not really wrapped this up, have I? So take care of yourselves. I hope you're all safe and well. I think if the last few months have taught us anything, it's that football isn't really the be all and end all. What we found out tonight is it's probably not the morale boost everyone was hoping for either. See you later.